Today we're going to talk about writing equations. So for the examples, we are going to go through and I'm going to give you a mathematical statement and we are going to match it up by creating an equation using numbers, variables, operations, equal signs, exponents, parentheses, etc. And so we're going to take each example and create an equation from what it says. So the first thing we have is 1 plus. So we have the number 1, and we are adding. Then we have 5, so the number 5, minus the product, comma, of 7 and a number, comma. Now, when you see the commas here, that typically means it's telling you what is working with the variable, or sorry, the vocab word before it. So we have minus the product. So product is referring to what vocab word, or specifically what operation word. Hopefully you said multiplication. So that means we're going to be multiplying something together with something else. So we have of 7. So 7 is going to be the first thing I'm using within this multiplication problem. And then it says, and a number. Now, anytime you see that phrase, it is referring to a variable. And so we're going to multiply times a variable. Technically, you could pick any variable you want, but typically we use the variable of x. So we have minus the product, which again tells us we're going to be multiplying the next couple of things together, 7 and a number. So we're subtracting 7x. Then we have is equal to, so we have an equal sign, 15. So the statement was 1 plus 5 minus the product of 7 and x, so minus 7x, is equal to, or equals, 15. And that is all we're going to do for this example. We're not going to solve for x. We're just going to practice writing the equation that matches the statement. Let's go on to the next example. Number 2. 2 times a number plus 15 is equivalent to 30. So 2 times a number, so times and referring to multiplication. So 2 times, and anytime you see a number, remember that means variable. So 2 times a number, like 2x, plus 15, is equivalent to. Now, equivalent is kind of just a longer version of equal, okay? Is equivalent. So is equal or is equivalent to 30. And again, we are just practicing on writing our equations at this point. As we have already learned how to solve them, we are just going to practice writing them out. Let's go on to the next problem. 3/2 times the difference of a number and 2 is as much as the product of 4 and a number increased by 3. Now this one's got a lot of things going on, so let's break it apart. 3/2. So we've heard fractions being read like this, 3/2. So we have 3 halves times the difference. Now it says times the difference, so we're going to be multiplying by difference, and difference referring to subtraction. Anytime you're going to be multiplying by the difference or multiplying by the sum, etc., multiplying by anything that's another operation, that's our key and our cue to use parentheses. Because whatever it's going to tell us, we're going to have something else going on. So if you have times the difference, the sum, the product, quotient, anything like that, you're going to be using parentheses. So we have the difference, so we know we're going to be subtracting two things, of a number and 2. Now, when you see the word difference, we know it's subtraction, but specifically what's important is that whatever you see behind it is in the order that it must be written. So when it says of a number and 2, it means we're going to take x and we're going to subtract 2. So whatever order it states after that point of difference is the order in which it should be written. And then we're going to close off our parentheses. So 3/2 times the difference of of a number and 2. Now it says is as much as. Again, this is another way of saying equals, but is as much as will be equals the product, which we've already talked about before, product being multiplication, of 4 and a number. So of 4 times x increased by 3. So increased meaning adding plus 3. So all together we have 3/2 times the difference of x minus 2 equals 4x plus 3. Great job. Let's try the next one. Number 4. 3 less than a number is equal to 6 times the sum of a number and 2 decreased by the product of 4 and a number. Now I'm going to go ahead and let you guys try this one, and we'll see what you get. Go ahead and pause the video here to try. Okay, let's see what we got. So the first thing we have is 3 less than a number. Now this one's a little bit of a tricky way of saying subtraction, but as we all know, subtraction order matters, right? If I said 5 minus 2 and 2 minus 5, those are different numbers. So we have to pay attention to that phrase, less than. Anytime you see the phrase less than, it's actually switching the order in which you're reading. So 3 less than a number actually means x minus 3. And the reason why is because if you think of it saying like 3 less than a number, how about you say your sibling is 3 years less than you? That means you would take your age and subtract 3 to get their age. So anytime you see that phrase less than, it's referring to switching the order of what you're reading for the subtraction problem. So 3 less than a number means a number subtracting 3. Now we have is equal to, so just our basic equal sign, 6 times the sum. Now remember, anytime you see two operations together, that means we need to use parentheses. So 6 times the sum, so we're going to use parentheses, the sum of a number and 2, so the number and 2, because we were adding, decreased, so we've talked about increase, so decrease would be subtraction, by the product being multiplying, of 4 and a number, so subtracting 4x. That one's definitely a longer one, but hopefully that one went well. And my explanation clarifies any concerns you have. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5, the product of 2 and a number squared plus 3 times a number is 10. The product of 2 and a number squared plus 3 times a number is 10. Again, go ahead and try this one. Pause the video, write an equation, and I'll explain why it is the way it is. Okay, let's see what we should have gotten. So the product of 2, product being multiply, so 2 and a number squared. So we know that a number means a variable. And when we talk about squared, we're referring to those exponents. So that means we are going to be squaring the number or squaring the variable in the scenario. So we get 2x squared. Then we're having plus 3 times the number. So now we're going to add 3 times a number, or in other words, 3 times a variable, like 3x. Keep the same variable. We have 2 different phrases of a number, but that doesn't mean it's a different variable. And then we just have is 10. Okay, so we know 10 is involved, but we didn't have is equal, is equivalent, is as much. When we have is just in its basic sense of the word by itself means equal. So is equal, is equivalent, is as much is really just a fancy way of just saying is. Anytime you see the phrase is in a statement like this, it means equal sign. So we have 2x squared plus 3x equals 10. Okay, number 6. The quotient of 8 in a number is equal to the sum of 3 in a number divided by 2. The quotient of 8 in a number is equal to the sum of 3 in a number divided by 2. Go ahead and try this one, and we'll come back. Okay, so hopefully we remembered our vocab words of quotient. Quotient meaning divided. So we have the quotient of 8 in a number, and much like much like subtraction, we know that division matters the order. So when we have the difference of, and it lists 2 things, we have to keep the order correct. Same thing with quotient. We have to keep the order the same. So of 8 in a number means we're going to have 8 divided by a number. Now remember, we want to keep our things listed as fractions because fractions are friends. So the quotient using as 8 divided by a number, or in other words, 8 divided by x, is a vertical fraction. Is equal to the sum of 3 and a number. So 3 plus x divided by 2. Now, the reason why we know this will actually be all divided by 2 is specifically because it says equal to the sum of 3 in a number, meaning 3 in a number should be put together, and then we're dividing that whole thing by 2, rather than it saying that it's equal to just simply 3 and a number divided by 2. Because it uses the phrase is equal to the sum, we know that that whole part, 3 plus a number, should actually be together before dividing the entire sum by 2. Okay, from here, you're going to follow through the rest of the examples, and you're going to try them out on your own. And the next time we see each other, you will get these checked to see if you were correct. Feel free to work with those around you, as long as you ensure you get all of them done before leaving the class. Email if you have questions.